Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I am pleased and privileged to open this debate on behalf of the Public Petitions Committee and to move the motion in my name. The committee will be considering a report on its work around Petition 1319 in due course, and we felt that it would be useful and important to afford the Parliament as a whole the opportunity to be part of this debate and indeed to contribute any comments or suggestions about the current position with youth football in Scotland and how the improvement called for can be delivered. The petition on improving youth football in Scotland is the longest running petition currently being considered by the Public Petitions Committee. The fact that it has been under consideration for so long and has been kept open across 3 sessions of the Parliament indicates how seriously we take the issues that have been raised. It is evident that committee members over a long period have been exercised by a desire to ensure that youth football not only produces the stars of the future, but also provides opportunities for young people simply to enjoy the sport, for young people to be at the centre of youth football, but not a byproduct simply of commercial interests. We all know that football, for good or ill, holds a special place in our society. Those with the talent, ambition and commitment to achieve success at a professional level should be supported to realise their goals. Equally, those who wish to take part in football on a non-professional basis should have every opportunity to do so, and the game at that level should also be valued by us all, including all those volunteer coaches and organisers who provide of their time to ensure that young people can enjoy themselves throughout our country every night of the week. And striking the appropriate balance between those interests is at the heart of this petition. Before I go on to discuss some of the themes raised by the petition, I would like to pay due recognition to the petitioners Scott Robertson and Willie Smith. Both Scott and Willie should be commended on their commitment and dedication to youth football. This is evidenced in part by their continued engagement, indeed persistence with the petitions process, but also by the years of their time they have given to sustaining youth football at a local level. Their work is not just about the petition itself, but their work has given pleasure and opportunity for many young people across the country for many years. That the petition has been under consideration for such a long period is, of course, indicative that the Public Petitions Committees, and I use the plural advisedly, have not been satisfied that the outcomes achieved to date are the best that can be delivered. In saying that, recognition should be given to the movement that has taken place on the part of the SFA-SPFL. Changes have been made that could be positive, and examples of these steps include the introduction of the standard pack for all players in relation to registration, the clarification that young people registered with the football academies can continue to play for their school team, and the introduction of staff to support child well-being and protection. We remain concerned, however, that in balancing up the various interests that are at play, the system as it is currently established does not always ensure that the interests of children and young people are absolutely central, as we believe they must be. Members will perhaps forgive me if I comment that given the success of the senior Scottish women's team in its recent qualification for the 2017 European Championship tournament, we would hope that, whatever the future for the regulation of youth football, plans are put in place will also allow a comparable investment in elite-level girls' football as well as boys' football. Now, there are 3 issues of particular concern, current concern to the committee that I would highlight: the registration period for players in the 15 to 17-year age group, the payment of compensation costs, and the question of appropriate payment of the minimum wage to young players. Currently, players in the 15 to 17-year age group are signed for a 3-year registration period. This differs from the 10 to 14-year age group, where registration is on an annual basis. Concern has been expressed by the footballing authorities that a shorter registration period in this age group may result in English clubs seeking to recruit players to the detriment of clubs and to the educational and family life of young players. A question that we have asked on a number of occasions is why the best interest and well-being of a child or young person is a matter that should be for football systems to determine, rather than the parents and guardians of the young people concerned, or indeed the young people themselves. Within the 3-year period, a player would not be able to move between elite professional academies unless financial compensation is paid. We understand that compensation payment is a requirement of FIFA. The amount of compensation due is calculated on the basis of a matrix, with the acquiring club making a compensation payment that would be commensurate with the value of the training that would have been provided up to the relevant point in a player's career. In other words, a player moving from an academy-rated gold to an academy-rated bronze would have a compensation payment made based on the value of training at bronze level. What has been suggested by a number of organisations is that a fairer system would be one in which the compensation payment was made only at the point a player signs his first professional contract. Our understanding is that a compensation system that operated in this way would be compliant with FIFA rules. The committee is clear that the issue of registration is not being conflated with the issue of professional contracts that may be signed by players aged 16 and over. However, the terms of registration in the current compensation system are, in our view, unduly restrictive on players and should be changed. On the issue of contracts, one issue to which we have recently given consideration is the issue of minimum wage payments. While this issue is not explicitly addressed in the petition, it is another element where concern has been expressed to the committee about the approach taken by football authorities. Minimum wage is a legal requirement about which there cannot be any equivocation. In evidence to the committee, the footballing authorities have set out their position as to why it may not be immediately clear what payments are made to a player and how many hours they may be required to work. Against this, there have been numerous submissions which have referred to contracts which give a figure of £1 a week as payment due to a player. We have also had discussions about what may or may not be involved in the calculation of hours worked by a player and what other payments may mean that, overall, an individual was being paid at least the minimum wage. I think the committee is clear that if a player has a contract which includes payment of an appearance fee, they should only have that payment taken into account by way of an actual appearance. It shouldn't be a means of topping up the matter in order to ensure it looks as if the minimum wage is being paid. There has been debate with the footballing authorities over the approach that has been taken to instances in which payment of below minimum wage have been brought to their attention. They have taken an approach that in considering any cases, their main focus has been on ensuring that any player receives what should have been due to them. I also note that a change in approach has been discussed which would enable the football authorities to enforce a penalty against a club found not to be in compliance with minimum wage requirements. This is of course welcome, but it remains a source of frustration to the committee that, having been made aware of a number of instances in which questions were raised about minimum wage compliance, the dots were not joined more rapidly to recognise a problem that was more than an isolated incident. And it cannot be a defence that no one has complained. That is not sustainable. It must be the duty of the regulating bodies to ensure that there is not exploitation, particularly in a world where a young person's ambitions and their families' and dreams and ambitions for them may make it difficult for them to complain or may indeed see them accepting what others might regard as exploitation. Now, I don't want to paint a picture here of professional football club academies being full of disgruntled young people who are held against their will or who are not being supported to fulfil their ambition or potential. I don't think that is the case, and indeed we are looking forward to the visits we as the committee members will soon be making to clubs who are part of the current academy system. However, we are concerned that the design of the system is not as robust as it could be to best serve the welfare of the children and young people concerned. Recently, the committee's consideration of the petition has been taking place against the backdrop of Project Brave, the SFA's proposals to overhaul the elite youth academy system in Scotland. One of the proposals within the Project Brave initiative is to reduce the number of boys in the elite academy system from 2,500 to 1,200. In announcing Project Brave and the intention to reduce the number of elite academies, the SFA noted that Scotland had 29 elite academies for a population of just over 5.5 million. This was compared to the German system, which has 54 academies for a population of over 83 million. And while we understand that there will be ongoing work on proposals encompassed within Project Brave, we hope that it can be seen as an opportunity to address the issues raised by the petition, so that the rights and well-being of the children and young people concerned are fully recognised and protected. We are clear that for Scottish football to thrive, an attitudinal shift is required. The question of whether the current processes in place for youth football, both elite level and at the recreation level, are sufficient for child protection has been considered by both the Public Petitions Committee and the Health and Sports Committee. And I understand that the Deputy Convener of the Health and Sports Committee will address these concerns in her contribution to this debate. In June 2016, the Minister for Public Health and Sport wrote to the Public Petitions Committee noting the ongoing concerns of Tam Bailey, the former Children and Young People's Commissioner, but that she believed, quote, there would be merit in giving these new measures some time to take effect before considering whether any further action may be required. At that time, the Minister indicated that she would continue to work with Mr Bailey and was not, quote, ruling out external regulation, but would prefer to assess the effectiveness of the voluntary steps the Scottish FA and SPFL have put in place first. In a further letter of August 2016, the Minister stated, "The Scottish Government will continue to monitor these new measures and would be happy to discuss with the Public Petitions Committee and other stakeholders, including the Children and Young People's Commission in Scotland, how we can provide appropriate oversight to ensure the human rights of children and young people are reflected." Mr Bailey's thinking on the issue is well summarised in his letter of July 2016 to the committee, in which he stated, "My overall impression is that they have gone as far as they are prepared to go and are able to do so within their governing structures. This is not a matter of giving new measures some time to take effect, as suggested by the Scottish Government, but more facing up to the fact that for real change to occur, external regulation has to be imposed on bodies which, to my mind, are either unwilling or incapable of taking appropriate action to safeguard the rights of children. I hope that the debate today will afford the Minister the chance to offer some of her assessment of whether further action may now be merited. I would be interested to know what her timetable is, her timescale is for establishing whether the voluntary action is effective, and for her to recognise and understand the scale of the anxiety that has been expressed by many people around youth football about the way in which matters are currently conducted. I think this is an essential debate, an important debate. The petition is driven by a desire to sustain youth football, to ensure that in its governance, in its financial dealings, it is fair to all concerned. And I believe that it is important in relation to establishing a proper rights for young people who find themselves in the youth footballing world, that they aren't exploited and that they and their families can have confidence in the system that's round about them. Now, I welcome this debate and further interest of the Parliament in the work of the Public Petitions Committee in this regard.